So as I see it, the problem with today's gospel is that it doesn't seem to make any accommodations for real people with real lives. Now, elsewhere in the New Testament, Jesus meets fishermen in their boats, tax collectors at their booths, real people, regular people, where they are. But here, Jesus doesn't linger. There's no time to spare. It's as if Jesus is on a train and it's leaving. Doesn't matter if anybody's on board or not. But hey, someone says, hang on, I'm ready. Wherever this train is going, I'll go. Jesus takes one look at him and knows it's not going to work. This guy couldn't cope with the demands. Seems he was too wet behind the ears. Another individual told Jesus that he bought his train ticket already and was prepared to go, but first he needed to attend the funeral of his dead father. Someone else told him they needed to say goodbye to his family. And Jesus told them they had their priorities wrong. They were procrastinating, looking backwards. Now, I don't know about you, but the explanations people gave in today's gospel seem pretty legit to me. I mean, I get it. Sometimes patience wears thin when you're in a hurry, but the accounts we hear from these potential followers who need a little extra care perhaps merit some consideration. I mean, it's not as if these people were saying no. Their situations merely required a little sensitivity and adjustment. In 2016, the European Union Agency for Fundamental Rights released a report on the challenges to achieving equality for LGBT people. Researchers spoke to professionals in education and healthcare and law enforcement about their experiences and views, and delightfully many findings indicated that a lot had changed for the better. However, they also revealed some problems. The cause of these problems was the subject of the researchers' inquiry. Folk responsible for implementing policies and measures shared how some of their efforts had failed, and their justifications sound familiar. Firstly, it's not as if the public officials and professionals interviewed for this study are anti-LGBT. It's simply they weren't aware of all of the issues that LGBT people faced. They needed experience and training. But you see, this spoke to the heart of the matter for many people, reporting a crippling lack of resources. The recession and the resulting budgetary pressures made pursuing LGBT persons' fundamental rights more difficult. And still, others maintained that these few limited resources available were actually needed somewhere else more. And all these explanations offered by the interview subjects, all of them seem reasonable. No one doubts they're built on experience and expert knowledge. And while some might say that officials are only justifying their inaction, I mean, anyone who's tried to balance priorities and enact a plan, especially on a large scale, knows that policy implementation is not a cakewalk. It's a thorny path. So maybe this is just the way of doing business. After all, think about it. Compromise is a part of any deal. We've got to know that some projects, no matter how worthy, are going to have to make some reductions in scope and adjustments for obstacles that we encounter on the way. Consensus will always bring some level of disappointment. So perhaps it's better to measure success by a different metric. Instead of guaranteeing the rights of all people, a tall order, maybe a simple majority, maybe that's good enough. Instead of expecting that nobody's going to get hurt, perhaps it's best to just limit the casualties. Yeah. And instead of trying to eliminate prejudice, maybe we should just be real. Yeah? Some people just won't change. perhaps we should seek the middle ground where most people sit. These are realistic and pragmatic responses to the challenges we face as people on this planet. And it's no surprise that we've settled for them again and again. But as much as these are convincing concessions to reality, they aren't the stuff of Christian life. The proverbial journey is harsh. It is resource consuming. And it takes difficult to stomach precedence over other things. There really is no compromise. LGBT persons are beautiful children of God. Migrants and refugees have defensible rights. And the decision about what happens with a woman's body lies with a woman. It isn't negotiable. Because the excuses we make of not caring when someone else's worth is stripped, or when someone else's rights are taken away, the excuses that we make to tell someone they're not a priority, those excuses don't hold water. No barrier to human dignity does. When heard in the context of God's incredible love for humankind and God's desire for all God's children to be free, there can be only one response. No ifs, no ands, no buts, no maybes. The only response to God's call, is yes.